Great. I know. I want you all to stand and dance right now because I think we're all sleeping. No? Yeah, hungry. I know. I don't know if you can listen to a story when you're hungry, can you? Okay, let me ask you something. Once upon a time, that's how stories begin, isn't it? Yes or no? Yes? Okay, we'll have an activity before this. I'll say yes and you say no. Will you all join? Will you join? Okay, I'm going to do this again. I'm going to say no and you say the same way I say no, you say no? Yes. No! Yes. At the back? Yes. Good. No! Yes. No! Yes. Okay, you're alive. Good, good, good. Okay, once upon a time, that's how stories begin, right? There was a king. And this king had twins. Their names were Ram and Shyam. They were born at the same time to the same wife. They had the same height, weight, twins, identical, and they grew up. And it was time for the king to hand over his kingdom to the children who had holistic learning, like what Swamiji was saying. They were wonderful human beings, and it was time for him to hand over the kingdom. Good. One was 20 and the other was 22. What? I can't hear you. You're saying they're twins. Yeah, I'm not disagreeing. So can I continue with the story? No, okay. I want you to ask me then the question. I'm asking you. I'm not asking you, I'm telling you a story. So, okay. So, what were the names? Once upon a time there was I hope you're following, there was a king and he had twins and they were the same height, weight, everything. One was and the other was, one was an optimist and the other was a pessimist. It was time for the king to hand over his. One was, the other was. Oh, so you agree? Both are 20? That's what I said. No? Oh my God, now I can't proceed with this story, isn't it? We have a little dilemma here. So why don't you think about it? Why don't you do one thing? Take your right hand and give yourselves a whack. This helps, you know. All of you, your right hand? Good. One whack? Okay. Once upon a time there was and he had twins. One was, and the other was, and they grew up. And they were wonderful human beings. One was, and the other was. That's what I said. So one was 20 and the other was 22. Oh, who was that? Who gave the answer? Great, give them a hand. Okay, so one was 20 and the other was 20 T-O-O. 22. Right? So, Does stories wake you up? Yeah. Can teachers bring this into the classroom to make people think? Make people think. So one of the things today we're talking in education is how to make children think. Because without thinking there is no learning, isn't it? So what happens? What is it when they learn? Which part of the brain? Everyone's been talking about the brain, right? So what is that which retains in the mind? It's called, let me say a simple word. What do we remember? What is that remembrance called? Memory, isn't it? So curiosity, when the child is curious, the child learns. When the child learns, he retains. And you must have seen from your childhood that there are moments that we retain in our heads, isn't it? Whether we are seeing a movie, or whether we're listening to a story, or whether it's a sari that your mother has worn. A lot of small pictures that retain in our memory. So even if the child goes from class 1 to class 12 and education, when he recalls his life, there are moments that he's able to remember. And so memory plays a great part when you have to remember something you have learned. And the best way to remember is perhaps through a story, right? So we all know, for instance, we know the Thirsty Crow story. Yeah, or we have heard the story of the hare and the tortoise. We also see things. So we have visual, we have all kinds, through all our senses, we remember. I remember when I was very young, I went with my parents for a movie, a lot of movies. And I remember Savitri and Gemini Ganesha. And these were black and white films in which the main character or the main protagonist was then Chand, isn't it? Because every movie would have a moon, all duets would be sung on the terrace or along the beach, and in all languages, in those days the hero will be running behind the heroine, right? So they would be singing songs. Ye raat bigi bigi, ye mast fizaye, ye chand dheere dheere, ye raat pyara pyara, right? There might be that song. Or Varayo vennilave, Elayo inda kadeye, Varayo vennilave. Everywhere there would be the moon. And you remember the expressions of these actors. And those days they didn't have a budget, so it was all black and white. And generally when the man runs behind the woman would go. Yeah, she would hold on to a coconut tree or something and do that. So these are moments. Now, many people tried many things. Movies haven't changed. Movies haven't changed at all, only the scenes have changed. So you have one line now in Paris, one line shot in London, and you have digital that goes up and down, right? So except for that, the base storyline still remains the same. But it has prevented us from retention because it's too flashy, it's too quick, and it doesn't help us to retain. So now, in the 70s or 80s, they tried something called realistic films. Why do we see films? Because there is an imaginative world, we identify with the hero, isn't it? And in the middle, they tried realistic films. So there, they would have this man getting up from bed and he would stretch, isn't it? And he'll take a long time to stretch. And then he'll yawn. And then he'll go towards the door and he'll open the door. And then he'll take his toothpaste and put it on the toothbrush. And then he'll brush. Now, aren't you getting bored? 15 minutes. And you say, yeah, I do the same thing at home. Give me something more. Isn't it? We want some action. We want a plot. We want something to remember. So imagine if this had a plot. This man gets up from the bed and there is background music. Dun, da, da. And now he goes towards the door and he opens the door. Dun, da, da. And now he takes the toothpaste and puts it on the toothbrush. Now what the villain has done in the film is he's put poison in that toothpaste. And now you're wondering how the hero is going to handle this. He doesn't know it. So when he takes the toothpaste and puts it on the toothbrush, and now tan ta da, then he removes his dentures and he starts brushing. Now that's a relief, isn't it? So you follow the story until you want to know what happened next. And that is because we are curious to know how this story would proceed. And so curiosity helps with retention and learning. Because when you follow, you do something called listening with interest. We all know why we put money in the bank, isn't it? Because we gain some interest. So when you invest listening with interest, then you know it has something called retention. Recalling happens very easily. And then we come to the last part, which is called retelling. Okay, I'm going to do a small story, which were called chain stories in those days, when there was oral tradition and people sat around the fire and told stories. No written form, nothing. It was only to listen, which was called Shravanam. So once upon a time, there was a man. And this man climbed a coconut tree. What tree? Coconut tree. I want louder responses. What did he climb? A coconut tree. And now he was holding the branch of the coconut tree because he wanted to cut coconuts, obviously, right? In a coconut tree, you don't find other fruits. Okay, so he's about to cut the coconut when there comes, which is a bee, and it goes tong, and now he screams and he drops the axe. Now who's waiting down? His wife. And his wife, she's very happy and she's having a sack and waiting for the coconut. But what is coming down? And she says, I gave him good breakfast. Why is he throwing the axe at me today? And she moves. And when she moves, she stamps the tail of a snake. Now the snake is very scared and he gets into a hole. And whose hole is that? It's the rat's hole. And the rat says, oh my God, this is unwelcome guest. I don't want this guest. And runs out and climbs another tree. And who's on that tree? Birds with little ones. When she sees the rat coming up, she does back, 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 back. And there's a monkey who's sitting on the branch of that tree, and he is just about to have a fruit. When he hears back, 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 he drops the fruit. The fruit goes and falls down on an elephant's head. And the elephant thinks that the sky has fallen on his head. And the elephant runs. Bada, 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 bada. And as he's running, he goes over an ant hill. Now this ant hill goes and crushes 3 eggs. Now, who looks after these eggs? Who lays eggs? Who lays eggs? The hen, very good, the hen. So the hen and the rooster are very sad. Now it is the rooster's duty to get up in the morning and do pok, 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 pok. And that's when the sun will rise. Now this was long, long ago. So now the sun is sleeping. It's very dark. And all the animals and birds, the tiger, the lion, what's happening, what's happening? Yeah, what's happening? And they all go towards the creator. Who's the creator? Brahman, sir. Isn't it? So they go to the creator's house and they knock. But he's in deep meditation. And he's having his eyes closed. So they say, we have a problem. It's all very dark. And Brahma says, yeah, it's very dark. They say, no, no, open your eyes. It's really dark. And now Brahma asks them, how come it's dark? They say, we come to you. You tell us, you can summon the sun, isn't it? So now Brahma calls the sun. Now the sun wakes up and comes and there's light. And it's beautiful. And now he asks, why didn't you wake up in the morning? And what do you think the sun answers? This is what corporate people do. What do you think sun answers? Well, don't ask me. Ask my learning and development department, which is the rooster. He's supposed to crow every morning, isn't it? And the rooster says, ask the HR department. So, because all my eggs got crushed, because the anthill came on the eggs, and because the elephant went on the anthill, because the fruit fell on his, come on, respond, because the fruit fell on his, because the monkey dropped the fruit, because the birds made a sound, because the rat went up the tree, because the snake went into the rat's hole, and because the lady stabbed the tail of the snake, and all because the axe fell, and it is all because the bee stung. And now Brahma asks, because they're all teachers, and he asks all the teachers, so who is to be blamed for this? And what do you think the teachers answer? What is your answer? Who is to be blamed? What is the natural answer you think they would have given? Who is responsible? You're scared? The bee? You think the bee is responsible? How many of you think the bee is responsible? Good. So that's what they answered. They said, it's the bee, it's the bee, it's the bee. And now, Brahma called the bee and said, I'm going to call you in. And the bee was doing his own job. What does he do? Sting and gather honey, isn't it? So he went, and he thought, he said, why should I be responsible? Because I didn't do anything. And he said, I'm not coming. And Brahma got very angry and told the bee, because you won't come, all your life you'll keep doing and they say even today the bee goes Well, that apart, Brahma decided, I don't think it's only the bee somebody talked of collaboration, isn't it? Collaborative responsibility. So finally, he said, the immediate people who are responsible is the sun and the rooster. We cannot blame the card effect that happens. Everyone was responsible for every action that happened. And so, he called the sun and he said, from now onwards, you will not give any excuses. And you will rise every morning. And he told the rooster, we have no problem of reproduction in our country at all. Isn't it? So what if your eggs are broken? We can always have more eggs. But don't fail from your duty. And so the rooster agreed that he will crow every morning. And from that day onwards, people say that the rooster has always crowed and the sun has never failed to rise. Okay? So this is what we call as a chain story. Yeah? And this, does it help you with your memory a bit? Okay, can we have a quick go? So what happened first? The bee's tongue is hand. What fell down? Axe. And what did the lady do? Good. And then? Okay, when you recall the story, write it down. It always helps. Okay? So, I'm going to end because I've got the warning signal right away. So, a lot of things has to do with the child accepting himself or herself. Learning happens when they accept themselves. Teachers accept responsibilities and they also are responsible human beings. We don't have to go by many jargons. Do what your heart tells you and you will be very, very, very happy. I'm going to end with one. It doesn't matter, even if the child tells anything that comes to his mind, I want you to accept that child. One of the children came and asked me, you're asking me so many how and why questions. Tell me why the fire engine is red, ma'am. And I said, oh, I don't know. And he said, yes, I'll tell you why. Because it has 8 windows and 4 doors. That makes it 12. Each window is 12 inches. 12 inches remind you of a ruler. A ruler reminds you of a foot ruler. And ruler reminds you of a ship called Queen Elizabeth. Because Queen Elizabeth is the name of the ship. The ship sails on the sea. The sea has fish. Fish has fins. Fins remind you of Finland. Finland is a Marxist country and its flag is red. And so the fire engine is red. I know it made no sense. But you know what? The child was able to relate. And I think we are talking today in our lives, not only as teachers and learners and children, but on the whole, someone mentioned it last time, is about respect, relationship, and reverence. If the 3 of them can be done, then I think we are doing the world a great place to live in. Thank you very much, Brahmam sir. He always gives me the responsibility of doing this either after lunch, and today it was before lunch. I know you're all very hungry. Thank you, Brahmam sir, and thank you all of you for inviting me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for this really wonderful